Most people think ambition is a gift, and it is, but nobody tells you that the same thing driving you forward can quietly take away everything else. This was a major challenge for me on my ambitious journey, and I hope that this video provides some sort of clarity and insight to people who are also on their ambitious journey to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and this video is ambition's dark side. There is a version of ambition that looks like drive from the outside, but feels like a disease from the inside. I was 13, maybe 14 years old when it started. I want things like nice cars, big houses, just overall a fast and furious lifestyle. And social media just poured gasoline on something that was already burning. And that fire, it didn't feel like motivation, it felt like an obsession. A dysfunctional, near toxic obsession that sacrificed everything else on the altar of success. I felt guilty for having fun. I felt guilty for resting. If I wasn't doing something productive, I couldn't justify just existing in that moment. And that was the cost. What I didn't see until later. The real connection. I was so focused on building a future that I forgot to live in the present. I had to relearn how to have fun. And that sounds simple, but it wasn't. I had to learn how to be at a pool party and actually be there. I had to learn how to play tennis with my friends and just let my mind go quiet. Just be present, fully present in that moment without optimizing everything else. What I've come to understand is this: that early phase, that all-consuming obsession, that burning desire, it was necessary. It built the foundation, the mental framework, the mental discipline. That's what that early stage built. It built a muscle, it built an appetite for work. Because when you're an ambitious person, you build plans, but you don't actually stick to them. And that's the vast majority of ambitious people. What this all-consuming obsession did was build a muscle for work. But you cannot stay here forever. Success without balance isn't success, it's just achievement. Because when you build these plans and you actually see the plan through fruition, it's just an achievement. It's just a plaque on the wall. And you always want more. And that is very, very toxic. No, on the other hand, when you build systems that allow you to rest, truly rest, the people around you who are dear to you, they feel that energy. The calm after the storm, they absorb it. They enjoy themselves more because you've finally shown up. That's when you realize you were the source all along. You just weren't sharing that energy. For example, I built something meaningful. I built something that produced cash without me needing to work. And that's basically the goal of a lot of ambitious people. And I did that. I did exactly that. And it just made me have this calm, relaxed, composed feeling. And the people, especially the girls who are around me, they feel calm, they feel seen, they enjoy the moment even better, and they just feed off of that energy that you have. When you build systems that allow you to rest, truly rest, the people around you feel that energy, and that is not a lie. These are 2 stages to my journey. The first is mental warfare, and I'm naming it mental warfare because that's the best way I could describe it in the moment. You're fighting your internal demons, the voices of the people around you, the noise of the world trying to define who you should be. This first stage, the mental warfare, this stage is very chaotic. It's loud. It feels like a battle. The second stage, this is where I am now, and it feels like spiritual warfare. And the difference is everything becomes more subtle. After you've done the work of the spiritual warfare, and you're not spiritual warfare, after you've done the work of mental warfare, you're now in the realm of spiritual warfare, and the attacks becomes quieter. The distractions are more seductive because you have more access to things. It's more down to you to have discernment to know how to navigate these spaces. You have to identify the energy drains because these things become harder to detect. You start reading rooms differently. You start feeling frequencies. You start knowing things without being told. What aligns with you and what doesn't. You have a more sharper muscle to root out things like these and just remove the things that don't serve you anymore. For example, music that used to hype you up starts to feel like noise. Environments that feel neutral start to feel like weight. People who used to feel harmless start to feel like leaks. They're just energy drains. And I'm not saying this from a toxic perspective where you should cut off all your friends. I'm not saying that. But sometimes you just need to know how to regulate people, regulate emotions, regulate environments. You just need to know how to regulate these and just distance yourself from them for a healthy amount of time. And with all of that said, you become more present, you become more internal, you become more you. And internal validation was a major thing on this journey. Internal validation is the driving force of all ambition. Genuinely, internal validation is the driving force of all ambition, because you no longer need external sources to validate what it is that you're doing, what it is you're working toward, and you can just truly focus on what it is you're doing and truly feel fulfilled from basically accomplishing your mission. And at this stage, you listen more than you speak. You extract value more than just wasting your energy. And not to say this in a toxic way that you only extract things from people, but for example, if you're in a room and there's a wealthy person who is at a higher level or at a stage where you want to be in maybe like a year or two, just listen more than how you talk. Just listen to how that person navigates. Listen to how that person navigates and just articulates themselves within a room, within a business environment, and just extract all the value you can from that person within that environment. That's not toxic. That's just learning. You move with a level of finesse, but you have to know how to balance it. Not just go into overdrive and just extract all you can from a person. That's very toxic. All right? But you take what's useful and just discard the rest and just keep moving. If you're somewhere in this journey, whether you're still in the chaos of mental warfare or just starting to feel the quiet shift into something deeper, just know this: you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're just becoming. The hill feels flat, but you're climbing vertical.